Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Through the Eyes of a Therapist podcast. I'm Crystal Acosta, licensed counselor in Texas and New Mexico, and my co host, Andrea Luna, LPC associate.
Hi, everyone.
Thanks for joining us again today. We hope that you liked our previous episodes for season 7. I believe I counted. It's 7 seasons now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we've been going since 2018. So we're very proud of our little podcast that could. If you are watching from YouTube, please remember to like and share and comment. And also, if you are following us on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, please let us know in the comments. And also, if you're not following us there, go follow us. Yeah.
Well, today we're talking about something a lot of therapists, I think, secretly think about, but maybe are scared to take the first step because nobody really teaches us how to do, and that's starting a private practice.
Yes, exactly. I don't think that it's something that is covered in graduate school. I think that we learn a lot about theory and diagnosis and assessment and skills and techniques, but nobody ever teaches us about running a business. And a lot of us don't have business degrees. So there's a lot involved.
Yeah, and I think like somewhere in between that whole process, right? Like between writing notes and doing our hours and getting supervision, a lot of us like really start to wonder, like, could I do this on my own? And I think especially if you're coming from like community mental health or like just feeling tired of like where you're at, could I do this? That's a big question in our mind. So Crystal's going to be here today to share with us her process into private practice, and also to share some information about some like cool upcoming things that, like a workshop that you have going on, right?
Right. Yeah. We'll talk more about the workshop later, but it will be virtual and it'll be at the end of May. We'll leave the details in the description below. And you can always go to our website to find out more about it, clarityelpaso.com.
Yeah, so today we're breaking it down from a real perspective. We will talk about, what it takes to take the leap, the first steps to forming a business, tools that can make running a practice a little bit easier, and how therapists really start building a caseload. So the marketing aspect of starting a private practice as well. But before we do all that, I think it's really important to learn about your story and kind of walk us through like how you knew it was time to take the leap. What was happening in your career when you first started thinking about private practice? Like, walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, I am probably like a lot of you who are watching right now, grad students, or you're thinking about being a therapist, and private practice is the goal. Like, that's something that I remember thinking when I would be in class and they would talk about, where you're going to work in the future and all that. And I'm like, you know what? I think one day I'm going to have private practice. And in my mind, it was one of those things that was super far away, that was not really attainable. It wasn't feasible right off the bat.
Expensive too.
Yeah, and you would have to have like a lot of capital or investments or savings or something, or get like a business loan, and it seems really daunting. So I think part of it was that I knew I wanted to be in private practice, but I didn't know how it was going to happen or when it was going to happen. I knew that I wanted to get really solid experience before I opened private practice, because I knew that in my mind, I felt like it would be easier to market myself if I had a lot more experience versus somebody who just opens their private practice right away, like right after grad school. Yeah. So I know there were a couple of people that I was in LPC supervision with who went into private practice right away, like right after they got licensed. And again, this is in Texas, so the rules have changed a little bit, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the podcast. But there are ways that now LPC associates, or like provisionally licensed folks, can now open their own private practices, where before that was not the case. Yeah. So our choices were kind of like go into community mental health or work for a private practice, but you can't open your own. But it was around 2019 when I was finishing up my student loan repayment program. I was feeling pretty burned out. The dynamics at my workplace were somewhat toxic. I felt like I needed to have a plan to get out, especially because I was pregnant with my son at the time.
Oh, wow.
And I was going to go on maternity leave. So my plan was, okay, I'm going to go on maternity leave and I'm just going to go back to the place where I was at. But then some other things occurred that will not be talked about publicly,
Right.
that made me kind of rethink, like what my priorities were. I knew that I had to be well for my child and like mentally stable and like not burned out, and I had to have flexibility in my schedule. I went from being super career conscious and almost like aggressive in my approach about my career to like soft and nurturing because I had a kid, and it was like a total switch of priorities. And that's when I sort of knew like I needed to do that now. Like I needed to build a private practice or build some sort of life for myself, whether it was in private practice or with another agency, that allowed me flexibility and that wasn't going to consistently burn me out. So
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that process too, though, because I think specifically for women, right? Like it's so important to highlight that switch. We could be like very career driven, and we even talked about this in like last episode of like imposter syndrome, but like we are very driven, we have goals, but then life changes happen and we have to adjust, and so it's really cool to hear that you, instead of seeing that as an obstacle, you took that to drive the goal even further.
yeah, definitely. I think having my kid was one of the number one motivators for sure to make me just not really think about it anymore and just do it. It was just like, it's time, got to do it. So my part of my story is that like with my newborn in my left hand and with my old ass HP laptop from like 2010 in my other hand, my dinosaur laptop, I started my business. Like I Googled everything, I YouTubed everything, I watched videos, I read like directions, or what are they called, like handbooks, and downloaded all the free things because I didn't have capital. I didn't have like an investor, and it's not like I come from this super wealthy family that can just give me money to start a business. Like I had to figure it out. So I'm really proud of that, actually, like how I DIY'd it.
You DIY'd a business.
I did because I couldn't pay anybody to do anything else. I couldn't outsource anything, so I had to do everything from scratch.
Okay, interesting. So what I'm hearing is you don't need to have everything figured out to start exploring private practice.
Right. I say that with caution because
Got it.
You do have to have some things figured out, but you also have to have something that I've heard other business owners talk about, and that's like business acumen. I think you have to have like business sense. I think running a business is not for everybody. And at the end of the day, you do have to walk away with income, right? To like support your family and stuff. So I wouldn't say that you can't have any of it figured out, or I think there are certain parts that you can work with at the very beginning that will give you like an MVP, like a minimally viable product, right? Like if it were a product, it's a service, but as long as you have enough of it figured out, you're working within the parameters of like ethics and laws, then you could probably do it.
I'm glad that you said that, because I think some things that I've heard people say too is that like, oh, well, you just have to be like really caring and in it, and like you just have to be willing to help everybody. And it's important to mention that this is a business model. It's not just like charity work. Like you said, you have to get paid. Like this has to also support your livelihood. Yeah, because I think anybody who's maybe not in the field gets a sense of like, oh, well, you guys should be helping as many people as you can. Yes, but I have student loans to pay and a home to like maintain. So we need to get paid.
Right. Yeah. I think that's part of the problem that contributes to something called like the scarcity mindset, where it's like, especially with therapists and social workers, we're kind of taught from the beginning, like, you're not in this career to make a lot of money. Like, I've heard professors explicitly say that to me and to other people, and I've heard it repeated from students to me, and I'm like, oh, that's so interesting.
I think I said that last episode too. That's so funny.
Oh, you did?
I think I did.
Yeah, you did. And I think that it's almost like part of the culture. Like, you're in it to help people. Like, why would you want to get rich? Like, that's selfish or evil or whatever, right? And it's like, I'm not like Scrooge McDuck, like,
yeah, no, I'm not like
diving into my coins
exactly
at the end of the day. But yeah, I think it is important to prioritize being able to live, right? I think a lot of clinicians also have something called like bleeding heart syndrome, where it's just like, I just want to help everybody.
Yeah.
And I want to, like, that person can't pay, so I'll do it pro bono. But every time you do like a pro bono session, and we'll get into this later, I know, but I think one of the first things that you do have to do is like understand that it's a business model. It's not charity. It's not really nonprofit work either. And so, yeah, you got to figure out like your boundaries and what you're comfortable with as far as like charging people an income and looking inward and using, I feel like money and income and that energy exchange that comes from a client is like a tool.
Yeah.
So,
well, let me ask you. Okay, so somebody decides that they want to do this. What are some of the first actual steps that you can outline for us?
So I think one of those steps is to do as much research as you can by gathering stories from people that you know who are in private practice.
Oh, that's a good tip.
Yeah. Like, so reaching out to people who have their own businesses, or maybe people who have had a private practice in the past and closed it. I think those lessons are valuable too, because I think that sometimes people jump into it thinking like, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life, and then they can't or don't, or they burn out, or there's just other life circumstances that could impact that, right? But I would want to hear from other people, like, how is it working for you? Are you able to have work-life balance? So like kind of interviewing other people. Ooh, that would be one of the first steps, I think.
Okay. Well, did you form an LLC right away? Like, is there other methods of creating the business?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. And I'm glad you asked that, because one of the other steps that I took in the beginning was I visited the Small Business Development Center here in El Paso. It's affiliated with EPCC, which is El Paso Community College, and it's a free service to the community. So you don't have to be a student. You can just live and work in El Paso and make an appointment with them, and they're business advisors. So the person that I happened to meet with, I was like 9 months pregnant at that point. I was like, okay, I need information about how to open this business, and she happened to be an LPC.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but she was also like a business advisor, but she was going to leave the agency, and so I caught her like right on time, like right before her transition. So she kind of taught me a little bit about like what you should do as far as business structure and how those sort of like umbrellas work. In the workshop that I'm going to be giving in a couple of weeks, I'm going to go into way more specific, I guess, business structure stuff. I'm not a business advisor, but I can tell you what I learned and what I did. So yeah, Clarity is an LLC. I started off as like a single member LLC. So it was just me. Opening a business, and it appears as if there are more people in the business, but it was just me for the first couple of years.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, I want to ask you though, what parts about all this felt confusing at first? Because I'm sure there was a lot of like gray area and not really knowing where the next step would take you. There's no like book for this or anything like that.
No, not yet. Just kidding. I think the part that was most confusing was kind of like the logistics, like, do I open an LLC? Do I do things under my name, like as a DBA? Or do I have to open a group right away? And then we take insurance. How do I get that going? So just like logistical things, but also I think more significant than the confusion was the intimidation. I think I was intimidated, and I think that's where a lot of people stop themselves from thinking, oh, I don't think I can do this, because once you start to research everything that goes into a private practice,
it's a lot.
It is a lot. And so I think sometimes people are like, oh, never mind, like I didn't know it was that involved, which is also why I wanted to like release this episode but also do the workshop, because I know that sometimes it's difficult to jump into something 100% if you don't know like what you're getting yourself into. You want to make an informed decision, and it's important to realize that it is a lot.
I really agree with your perspective on like not everybody, like this isn't for everybody. like I remember in grad school, I think it's so funny, like that last class we had that you asked us like what are your what are your plans? And I was like, I'm gonna have my own practice. And now I'm like, no. And that's interesting because I feel like I find myself to be a very driven person. Like I tend to initiate a lot, but this feels huge. And I'm like, no, I'd rather work somewhere where I feel really comfortable and then like start projects there. But yeah, definitely heavy on the not for everybody.
Yeah, and it's really about knowing yourself. I don't even really have when I think I talked about this last time when I came back from NMSU to El Paso. I wasn't really that connected. Um, I didn't really know who was who in the mental health community. I think the only person I literally like cold called like Richard at Family Service and was like, "Can you please supervise me? Help me." So it was really hard, and I definitely don't come from a family where there's like my parents are business owners and they're like wealthy. Like, no, we're like working class people. My grandfather did own a bakery in the Segundo Barrio, though.
Oh, that's so
Yeah,
cool.
it's still there, but I think one of my other family members owns it or something. Anyways, but
Runs in the family.
yeah, and sometimes I think, I wonder if that's like genetic. I
The
got it from like my
entrepreneur
grandparents.
spirit.
I think so. Yeah, but I think being aware of yourself and what your limits are, because it can be stressful and it can be time consuming, and at first you might not make a lot of money and you have to be willing to handle that anxiety that comes with that risk.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, once the business side is started, I guess the next big question becomes like, what tools do we need? What tools helped you start out the most? Like how, not as you don't have to give us all the details because you have your workshop, but like what helps with scheduling or billing, documentation? Like how did that get set up?
Yeah, that's a good question. So you mentioned the workshop. I mentioned it again. I want to direct you to clarityelpaso.com and click on upcoming events, and you can register there. It's going to be 2 hours, and we're going to cover a lot of this, a lot more in depth, as much as we can in 2 hours. There's a lot to this, but again, it's like that sort of introductory, is this a right fit for me sort of training/workshop. And I think it would be really helpful if you're thinking about private practice. But as far as the tools, I mentioned the Small Business Development Center. YouTube was a huge help. There are some creators
Sponsor
out there.
us.
Right? I know. I'm like, get this to like a lot of views so we can start monetizing this. Anyway, but yeah, YouTube was very helpful. There are a lot of creators, not a lot, a couple of creators that specifically talk about private practice. If you put in the search bar, you'll find a few. And they talk about things like credentialing and insurances and stuff like that. Another really important part of this tool set was Facebook groups. I know we talk about made fun of Facebook, but there's not really anywhere else that I can find this type of community. I haven't found it on any other, social media site or platform. Yeah. But if you go into the groups and you type in like counselors in private practice or therapists in private practice, they even get very specific. So like Texas telehealth private practitioners group,
wow.
or billing and credentialing for private practice owners. Like you can literally look up any group and you can probably find a solution based on what the group's theme is. So that was really helpful for me. I relied a lot on those because, again, I didn't have capital. I couldn't hire a consultant to be like, what do I do next?
Yeah.
Right? DIYing it. And it was time consuming because I'm the one who had to synthesize all that information and then like put it into practice, put it into play. So just be aware that it is a time consuming process if you're going to DIY it. But what was the other thing that helped me? Oh, like the website tutorials. So depending on, for example, like EHRs, electronic health record systems. I use Simple Practice. I'll put my code below so that you can get a discount. But yeah, Simple Practice has like a really good, what is the word? Like help team or like contact us team kind
like
of support. Yeah, support desk. They're very responsive, but also their tutorials are really helpful. So be ready to look at tutorials.
Okay.
Yeah, but those I think are more of the practical tools. You also probably need a laptop or some sort of smart device or.
Well, let me ask you this. What tools do you think are worth paying for? Because, like you mentioned, not all of us have the capital to kind of jumpstart and
Mm-hmm.
like drop money on a endeavor, right? But what do you think is worth investing money on, apart from the EHR? Because that one's kind of a must.
Right. The EHR for sure. Um, I guess if I could have afforded a coach or like a training
Okay.
like this, I know that like uh one of my colleagues in California, Adriana Alejandre, she runs Latinx Therapy podcast,
Oh, cool.
and she had a workshop, or she still does have workshops that are like more curriculum based. If you want to open a private practice, I would have invested in something like that if I had the capital, because it's kind of like somebody out there, an expert like herself or myself, did all the work for you, all the groundwork, and then we packaged it for you.
That's cool.
And then it's like, here, this is where you can start. It's like a guide. Um, that's something I definitely would have spent money on if I had it.
What do you
Yeah.
think you would have skipped out on?
What would I have skipped out on? I opened pre-COVID. Telehealth was not really a big thing at that point until 2020, like March 2020, like
Everything
a
changed.
fuerzas you had to do telehealth. And so I would have skipped out on like renting or subletting a place.
Yeah.
But that was just the circumstances. It,
Yeah.
it
You
was
didn't see it
just
coming.
yeah, I didn't see it coming, and it wasn't financially feasible to keep the office. We were just online. So.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about money. Because I think this is the part that scares a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
What startup costs surprised you? Realistically, how much money do you think is required to start?
The startup costs that surprised me the most, you know what? It's like a gradual build.
Okay.
It's kind of like when you start using your credit card little by little by little, and then one
What
day
if
you log
don't
in.
use it by little
Or-
by little?
Or even in big chunks, but then you like go and look at your balance and you're like, what the hell was I spending my money on? It's kind of like that. So I think if you write down all the things that you need, it does add up. So like you could be spending $100 here, or even $1 here, or $5 here for this guide, or
Interesting.
whatever.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you're like, oh my god, this was actually really
You're
expensive.
Like, there's like $10,000 in my credit card balance.
Yeah. So I think and then you don't have business credit, right? Because if it's your first business, it's like, how do you have a credit history with a bank?
That's true.
Yeah, it's a lot, but I think some of the things I would have skipped out on were like, wait, what did you ask me before that? Sorry.
Well, I asked about like startup costs. That surprised you,
Startup costs,
but
yes.
also like how much money realistically. But I think you're answering that. Like, there's no set amount. It sounds
Not
like
really.
it's just it really depends on your journey and like what you kind of gathered along the way. But the gist of it is that it adds up.
It does. I have a sort of a bootstrapping business model, the way that I run the business. So I will earn money, put it in the business, and use that money that is in the business that only we've earned. I try to eliminate as much debt as possible in my business.
Oh, wow.
Personal credit cards and all that, well, just that's different. But that's like my personal finances. As far as like the business finances, it's like a bootstrapping model. So there's that way to go. You could also have inherited a lot of money. You could have like an angel investor. You could have gotten a business grant. You could have even gotten a small business loan. So it just depends on how you want to build it. So like, for example, I think what freaks me out a little bit is like getting a big giant business loan.
Yeah.
What I would rather do, because this is like where my level of risk is like build from the bottom up versus like the top down. Like, okay, let's say I got like $100,000 loan. I got this really beautiful building with a bunch of equipment, but then what if I'm not making enough income to pay off that money?
Bringing in enough clients.
Or bringing enough clients, or hiring the right people. Or there's just so much operationally that could go wrong, I feel like. And some people are okay with taking that level of risk. I'm just not that kind of person. So I think that there are different kinds. Yeah.
Okay. Well, how long did it take for you to start generating income? When that risk kind of diminished?
I would say like 6 months. Building a caseload, and I'm sure you've probably heard this, is it can go slow in private practice, or even if you're working somewhere, right? Like your caseload has to be built over time by the time that you're full, right? It could take some people a month. It could take some people 6 months. It could take some people a year. It depends on a lot of factors, like what your specialization is, if you're good at building rapport, what the cost of your services are, a bunch of things. So
Yeah, no, that's interesting too. I think something that I tend to see and come across a lot on like Facebook groups, because I use Facebook groups too, is like
Just kidding.
the kind of like the fizzling away of like psychology today, and how that's not as what's the word I want to use? Like, it's not as like favorited practice to use. Like, there's other ways. There's like word of mouth, or now there's like TikTok, Instagram, like the push for like clinicians to be more like of content creators that really brings people in. And it's interesting because I feel like a big chunk of my clients have come from Psych Today, but I think it's in the way that you market yourself.
Oh, for sure.
Like, it's not enough now to just be like, oh, like, are you having a hard time with anxiety? Like, we all have that, right?
Yes.
Like, the first like grab question. Now it's about being more like personable and relatable. Like, I think on my Psych Today, I literally write like oldest sister Latina therapist, and like here to do some like intense generational work. Like, if you're down, like, let's do it. It might be a little fun, it might be hard, like, let me know. And so I think it's really about being a person. Like, people, I guess consumers are way past the whole like, oh yeah, like this sentence of like, are you struggling with anxiety? Like, they're like, can't be fooled by that no more.
No. I completely agree. I read something on some social media platform or an article somewhere a few days ago actually about this, and I think they referenced what you're talking about. Where Psychology Today is like a platform-based referral source, like referral marketing or something like that, I think they called it. And we're moving into like visibility marketing. So like you have to have a presence online. People need to be able to see you. And I think that's where ethics and some of the fear-based stuff that we're taught in school, and that is perpetuated by our peers. I mean, if you've gone into those Facebook groups that are like,
oh my god,
toxic for therapists, it's like people are so judgmental. Like, settle the hell down, guys.
Have you seen the new debate of like if we can drink water in
yes
or not?
Like, what the guys,
I'm like, I'm gonna drink water.
Conscious,
like,
like,
my client needs to know this.
Yes, like, I'm gonna take a sip of water, and if you think that that's unprofessional, like, I think you need to really check your privilege and check yourself and like settle down, because why are you so preoccupied with somebody drinking water? Anyways, I don't want to get into that. That's like a whole other episode. But yeah, I think being able to market yourself is risky, and being able to see, like, say, like we said in the first episode of the season, where you couldn't really hear me because I was talking like this. I don't know why I was doing that, but
we've learned since then.
Yeah, now I'm like projecting my voice. But I think it can be scary, because it's like, oh, am I doing like something unethical? Am I doing something weird? Am I going to rub somebody the wrong way? Is somebody going to report me to the board? All of that. But then also like being able to let yourself be seen and perceived online. It's a big platform. Like, anybody literally could like stumble across you on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram, right? So I think getting over that fear is part of the process for marketing. Yeah, but there's so many different ways to market. Maybe we need to have you do an episode about like marketing.
Oh my gosh, there is so much.
Because that's like a whole other thing. I personally don't like networking because I'm super introverted. And then I'm like, you want water? Like, I don't know why. Like, it's hard for me. I can talk in front of a microphone and a camera, but like with other people, it's just hard. Like,
and you know what? I was actually going to talk a little bit about like the networking component of private practice, because though you don't like to do it as much, I think there's such a crucial aspect. Like, networking opens doors. And if you are somebody who struggles with that, you need to probably polish that up, talk to your therapist. I don't know. Because, yeah. You're like, I am feeling attacked. But it is important, because this is how you like not only show your style as a clinician, but also just like it opens doors for maybe other clinicians to, or like, oh, okay, like I like talking to you, or like I like your vibe, I'm gonna send people over your way.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, like just for you to be understood and perceived by others, but your brand is you.
Yes, you are your brand.
That's the biggest thing.
Yes,
as therapists.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Even if you work in a group practice, even if you work for somebody, like you're a walking representation of like your brand as a therapist. And that's important.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think some of this definitely applies to people who even aren't going into private practice, but they're having trouble filling their caseload, for example, right? You might be working for an agency. So I do think we do have to have an episode so you can talk about it.
We probably do.
Yeah, and I'll interview you and ask you questions.
Oh, cute. Okay. Well, I do want to ask because I'm curious about this. I just know that I complete my billing and then I send it over to you. But let's talk about like insurance panels versus private. I see your eyes. Insurance panels versus private pay because, good Lord, the struggle.
Do you see how like I dissociated for a second? It's just hard.
Yeah, and if oh my God, if you guys haven't seen our clip, go to our Clarity EP. No, both our Clarity EP page and our Through the Eyes of a Therapist Instagram page, because Crystal just did a funny clip about like arguing with insurances and like I mean it sounds like you have to become like a freaking insurance attorney and like justify care. How stressful.
It is stressful. There was a period of time where an insurance company owed me like quite a bit of money, and I had to like, it was just me at that time, like, and so I had to take time out of my day to like call them during their business hours and try to track that money down. I mean, that's just one scenario of like what could happen. But cash pay versus insurance or like a hybrid model, I think you really have to think about who your population is that you're going to serve, where you live, what the demographic is. If you're going to be online, you're going to be in person, what kinds of overhead are you going to have to cover, like a office space, or is it just virtual? You have to for sure know your numbers. It's not something that I think, this is me though, because I don't really like math, but hold on, I just thought of something.
Okay.
You need to get a good accountant, like, and because math like,
well, all of us, I think that's all of us in this field, we are just not math savvy.
I just can't, I don't know, like,
and if you are, you're like a unicorn.
You are, and like use that because that's great. But like somebody who can do your taxes, somebody who can help you with like business structure, who can give you advice about like, hey, I want to do this, can I afford it? I want to hire this person, can I afford it? They can like do your bookkeeping. They're affordable options. And so kind of like the agreement that me and my accountant have, just as a little side note, is like I do all the main accounting with like QuickBooks, and then she goes in and does like what is the word, reconciliation of like accounts and stuff every so often, and that's how it's affordable for us at Clarity. Because if we had her every week or every month, like full time, that'd be freaking expensive.
Wow. And
so sometimes, I mean, if you get into like a pickle or like a mess, it might be worthwhile to like have somebody like that, like full time, doing finances. But you know, it just depends on your resources and all that. But okay, back to billing and
insurance,
self-pay. Yeah, so like I know some self-pay, like you're gonna see these people on Instagram, they're gonna be like, look how much I made, and they make like a reel with them like pointing to like how much money they've made, and they're like, I made $400,000 in private practice this month, and this is how I did it. And I'm like, okay, cool. But like that's not the reality for everybody. And they might be in a very, very specific situation where it's created that like perfect storm for them to be able to get that much money. So don't be discouraged by like that, but you do want to figure out, do you want to be like a super profitable place, or do you want to like make payroll and like the margins are minimal but like we're doing good work? Like what is it that you want to do? You might also even want to consider like nonprofit business structure. I do not prefer that, but you might.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's what I have to say about that. Okay. But do the training, I'm telling you.
Yeah, this is gonna,
because it's a lot.
Helpful. Okay. Yeah. Well, let me ask you. I think something that's come up, and in the spirit of like me talking about my experience and wanting to be in private practice, and then like finding out, fuck no.
I scared you. I'm sorry.
Thank you. I think I want to ask you like about LPC associates starting a private practice. You said that laws and rules have changed in Texas. And so before we wrap up and I can ask you for more advice, I do want to talk about how a new clinician can jump into this. Can they start a private practice?
You can. So, yeah, I've supervised a few associates, LPC associates in Texas who have wanted to open their own private practices, and they've done it. And so I think if you're an LPC supervisor and you have experience running your own business, running your own practice, I think that that's kind of like a prerequisite to be able to supervise somebody who wants to open their private practice right away, right out of school. I think that that's one avenue you could take. The avenue that I took was I wanted to do like community work, like nonprofit work, get as much training as possible and experience as possible before I jumped into private practice. But that's just the level of risk that I was comfortable with. Some people want to just do it right away, and I'm like, okay, good for you. That's great. But I think as far as like opening your own private practice, being ready to make that leap and like sort of being able to tell that it's time is really going to go back to like the first point of doing your inner work of how much risk you're willing to take.
Oh, yeah.
You know, interviewing other people about their experiences, synthesizing that information, and then being like, okay, I want to make a good informed decision.
Yeah. I mean, I'm curious too, because I think something that came up for me as I considered this was like, okay, well, I don't know enough, or like this is too soon, you know, after like getting my provisional license. So like, what do you think are some tips that you can give somebody as an associate as they're jumping into that, though? Like more, I guess, like emotional, mental tips, not related necessarily to the business.
To wanting to open a private practice?
Yeah, I mean, because we might come across, and maybe this is related to last episode too, like that imposter syndrome, where we feel like, oh, like maybe I'm too new to the field and like I shouldn't.
You know, I think a lot of it has to also do with like confidence, right? Like it's a big endeavor, and I think you can only really stop yourself, because I don't know if anybody's really going to stop you unless you're doing something egregious or you really are a terrible therapist. Like you're not going to get clients. But I think for the most part, if you sort of, you're running a business. So if you have, again, that like business acumen, like you feel like you could learn quickly, like you're an astute and quick learner and student, like being willing to also be humbled sometimes and like,
oh, that's a good one,
take risks too. Like I mentioned risk a lot, but because a lot of this is risk, you are gambling in some ways. Like,
yeah,
are you gonna pay yourself this month? Maybe not, you know. But yeah, so I don't know if there's like specific tips, but those are the things that I would like start thinking about.
Does your workshop welcome associates as well?
It does, yeah.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
So if you're an LPC associate and you're thinking about private practice, or you're exiting grad school right now, you're graduating and you're like, well, I kind of want a supervisor who's going to supervise me opening my own practice, this would be a really good place to start, because again, like I've done all the research. I literally DIY'd like everything. I did my own credentialing too. You don't have to pay a credentialer. I mean,
you could, but maybe you can forego it.
If you have time is money, money is time. I had some time. I didn't have money, so I had to do my own credentialing. But it's something you can learn. It's not like this big secret, like only credentialers and billers can do it. No, you can do it.
Our money is literally time, and our time is literally money. Like we work by the hour.
Yeah, we do.
Literally.
We do. And then I think we're also going to talk about other streams of income and stuff like that. Because working hour for hour for like hourly pay can be hard sometimes.
Oh yeah, especially like if we have no show, or you know, because things come up, no shows, like cancellations. And so I think after, like, if you experience a period of that in private practice, it could get overwhelming and discouraging. Yeah. I think more than anything.
I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
You're saying that at some point you discovered that you didn't want to do it. What do you think you saw, or how did you come to that conclusion?
I'm gonna be so honest in saying that, like, I just didn't want to fucking do all the work. Like I was like, no. Like I think for me it was a lot more of like the work itself is more interesting to me than
the clinical work.
Yes, the clinical work, than the notion of like, oh, I'm gonna have a business and like all of this to run and take care of. Like, yes, I love having responsibility and doing things, but I think my my preference is having responsibility in the sense of like running a group, or maybe like um outreach like I do now, where like I could be more creative about it without so many like obstacles along the way.
Mm-hmm.
That would just, yeah, because you have to remember too that like you're running a business and most of the time you're also seeing clients. And for me, that was just like a big no. Like I would have been so stressed out about like budget or like payroll or like paying myself and all this. And then on top of that, have to do like work with clients. It's just, it was not for me. I know my
Yeah.
limits.
So like knowing where you want to focus your energy.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And for me, it's very much about like having more creative outlets as opposed to like more rigid structure. That's just, but again, that's just me and like my preferred working style. Like for you, it's worked out to do both, right? Like you're able to be flexible in that sense. And so, yeah, definitely like finding your niche in this field and what connects you to the field, and keep like feeding from that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It really does. And I think that's something to consider. Ask yourself, how do you want to spend your time? Your time for money trade, right? Do I want to be doing clinical work? Do I want to do a lot of admin work?
Yeah.
Or what's my deal here? Like,
No
yeah.
one wants to do. I hope no one wants to do admin work, and that you can all relate to at least me, because fuck notes. I hate notes.
For me, you know what it is? Like, I generally don't really like admin. Like, nobody likes I do billing every night, right? Because I'm not going to hire a biller. It's just not, I don't think, I've done it so long, like, there's just no reason for me to do it. Other than, like, I'd save an hour a night or every couple nights. But I'm okay with that, the exchange. But you just have to kind of figure those things out over time. But yeah, I think I don't really enjoy the admin work, but I know that I'm doing it for a specific purpose. So it's almost like I know that if I do billing, we can see more clients. If I do my own, or we do our own payroll, that money can go towards the therapist salary instead of paying and outsourcing that.
And that's why you have a business and I don't.
So it's like purpose driven. It's not just like, oh shit, like now I gotta do this.
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
there are
for
some
sure.
nights where I'm like, oh God, please, I just want to go sleep. There are definitely those nights, but
Yeah. So okay, I want to kind of wrap up and like collect our thoughts and all the takeaways from today. I think in a nutshell, like starting a private practice can be really intimidating. Yeah, in a nutshell. But hopefully this conversation has really showed like our listeners today that it is something that you can approach. It's just, it's a slow build. She's a slow burn, step by step. Okay. If you've ever thought about starting your own practice, we hope this episode gives you somewhat of a picture of what the process is like. But if you really want to learn more and like get more into details of the steps to take, please like reach out. Look at our website, clarityelpaso.com/upcoming, I believe, and that's where you can find Crystal's workshop. Very affordable. Again, like this is something that we understand that people cannot just like jump in having
drop
boatloads of
thousands
money.
of dollars. Yeah.
But yeah, like reach out, ask questions, email us at info@clarityelpaso.com as well if you have questions for Crystal. And then we can hopefully kind of navigate that a little better.
Yeah, definitely. So part of the thing that I want to do was make it affordable, because I remember holding that baby in my hand and being like, I'm on unpaid maternity leave, like I don't have money. So I mean, that slight investment is just, it's going to save you a lot of time too, because again, over the years, it's all this information I've collected for you, packaged it up and presenting it to you. I also do consultations for business owners or people who want to open their own practices. So we do things like I help you build your portfolio or repertoire, or like tools of like consent forms and all the things that go into like private practice, how you should word it, and like I kind of review those things with you and like what you do next, and you have homework assignments, and those are also affordable. But if you're listening to this episode right now and you go to clarityelpaso.com/upcoming and you register, there is a special promo code for listeners, and you will get $15 off of the price, and the promo code is 15 off, so 15 OFF on your way to checkout. And yeah, so if you've stuck with us for the whole episode, that's your prize. Just
Oh, cool. Nice.
yeah. But hopefully this was helpful. Obviously, there's so much more that we can go into depth into with this topic. But yeah, I just wanted to be transparent and help out.
Yeah, and maybe we can do some like break off episodes, like you said, in like different skills. Maybe not necessarily jumping into private practice solely, but like marketing and like how to network and little things like that, to help build skills, hopefully, or at least like get your brain kind of working on some questions to ask, or to consult on. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, thanks for asking the questions, because I also feel like I didn't want to just like blab at the camera by myself.
Oh no! Thank you for sharing your insight with us. Super valuable.
Who does she think she is? She's just talking on her own. But thanks for tuning into this episode of Through the Eyes of a Therapist podcast. Again, I'm Crystal and Andrea, and we will see you on the next one. Bye, everybody.